Newcastle versus Liverpool. What a game that was last night. Whether it was the incredible comeback by Newcastle, the sending off, and even the young teenager coming off the bench and winning it late for his side, this game had it all. In this video, we're going to be discussing what I believe to be the 5 key takeaways from this game, including the star striker who was missing and which team might have benefited having him more. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's start right there, shall we, with Alexander Isak. Of course, he was missing last night. He wasn't in the Newcastle side that faced Liverpool. Obviously, amid transfer talks between Liverpool and Newcastle, we don't know yet what's going on there. Will he be staying in Newcastle, or might Liverpool come back in with a bigger offer? We just don't know yet. But for me, what was glaring from last night's game was which team needed him more. And I have to say, it was Newcastle. Yes, they started Anthony Gordon up front, as they did in the first game, but you could tell they were just lacking that finishing touch. They just needed someone to put their chances in the back of the net. And whilst Gordon couldn't do that, I do believe Isak might have scored 1 or 2 in these games, which could have got them points. Whereas Liverpool, they've got Ekitike up front, and so far he's started the season really, really strong. He's got 3 in 3, so that's the Charity Shield in the last 2 games in the Premier League. And he's raw, he's a raw talent, he's got a lot to work on with his game, but so far he's clearly found his feet in this league. It's not easy scoring goals in the Premier League, but I think he's doing a great job. He's leading the line, he's strong, he's quick, he puts himself about, he presses well. And so, do they really need a luxury in Alexander Isak? I don't know. Yes, of course, any team would take him, he's a world-class player, but at this point in time, at this moment in time, I don't think their weakness is centre forward. Let's not forget, in terms of the squad, sadly they did lose Diogo Jota in the summer, and that was awful. You know, obviously can never replace what they lost there. And maybe they do need some more strength in numbers to bolster that position, but they do have Chiesa who can come off the bench. He can play as a false 9. Salah could do the same job, come inside. They've got Gakpo who can play centre forward as well. So they do have players who can play up top, and they're scoring goals, aren't they? So if they can keep Ekitike fit and firing, they're not going to have an issue there. But of course, they're going to want a second striker. It's whether they just bring in someone to help Ekitike, or whether they bring in a world-class talent like Isak. Time will tell, but we've got maybe a week or so left of the transfer window. Let's see what happens there. But keeping on the topic of Liverpool, for me it's very clear what they need, and that is a centre-back. And that's to replace Konate. Look, I don't know what's happening with Konate right now, whether it's all the rumours with Mark Gay from Crystal Palace. Clearly Konate's been signalled out as a weak link for them. It's getting to his head perhaps, but he just looks so out of sorts playing for Liverpool at the minute. He's just running around. I don't know what he's doing half the time. And so they're going to have real problems this season if they can't find a new centre-half to pair with Van Dijk. I really do believe that. They let Quansah go in the summer to Leverkusen, a young English talent. Risky move. Yes, he had mistakes in him as well, but he was a young kid. Whereas Konate's got experience and he just seems to be well off it at the minute. Again, could he be dealing with personal issues off the pitch? Is there something affecting his performances? I don't know. But he is not at it at the minute, and they need to fix that and fast. And then one other point on the Liverpool side is the fullbacks. Look, Kerkez, he's come in. Yes, he's a young lad. He's only 21 years of age, and I highly rated him when he was at Bournemouth last year. I thought he was fantastic. Just bossed that left-hand side for them, whipping in the most dangerous balls. Defensively, was on it. Did really, really well in that back line. And 2 of those boys have gone on to big things, which is like PSG and Real Madrid. So, yeah, you'd think he would just slot in at Liverpool and be brilliant. But so far, he has looked out of place. He looks like he's not ready for this level. And again, maybe it's just finding his feet with tactics and the way Arne Slot likes to play. But so far, he's been out of position a lot. He doesn't know whether to attack or defend in certain moments of the game, and has been found out several times against these 2 teams in the Premier League so far. And he's not making that defence stronger. And with someone like Robertson with tons of experience on the bench, I wouldn't be surprised if Robertson gets more game time this season. Is that why they've kept him? Is that why he hasn't left? Because he's realised, or the team's realised, they may need him at some point. I don't know, but I'm sure Kerkez will be given time. He's a good player. He's got a lot of ability, but mentally he's not switched on at the minute. I think he's got a lot to learn at this level, and he's been found out for a big team. So yeah, like I say, early days, but so far he's proven to be one of their weak links in these first 2 Premier League games, and hopefully it doesn't continue, because at some point they're not going to be riding this luck. They're going to end up losing games because of the defence, whether it be someone like Konate or Kerkez. And whilst Frimpong, he's only played 1 game and he lasted like 60 minutes, I still don't believe he's the answer for Trent Alexander-Arnold. No one's ever going to replace what Trent was doing for Liverpool, whipping in the most dangerous balls, obviously a free kick specialist as well. That is going to be so difficult to replace, and whether it's Conor Bradley or Frimpong, I just don't think either of those are going to do much to replace that. Yes, they might defend better, possibly, but so far, I think Liverpool can be hard at the back, so they're not proven to be better defenders at the minute. Moving on to Newcastle, from this game, I think one of the big takeaways was just how much they've been decimated by injury, and whether it's short-term, long-term, I don't know, but during the game, Sandro Tonali went down, Joe Linton went down, and then Shah, the centre-back, he got concussion, some sort of problem with his head. 3 injuries that are going to massively shake up this starting lineup if neither can play next week. And obviously with Shah getting subbed from the concussion protocol, he can't play next week. That's the rules. So, yeah, I think Newcastle quickly are going to find out what they've got on the bench. And I'm not being funny, there ain't much to replace Sandro Tonali, Joe Linton. And at centre-back, we don't know what this new boy from AC Milan's going to be like. But quickly we're going to find out, because he's going to have to replace him, isn't he? So, yeah, I think Newcastle have been trying to add depth to their squad. They've brought in Jacob Ramsey from Aston Villa. Time will tell as to what he's going to do for this team, but clearly he's not a centre midfielder. He's not a solid box-to-box player like Tonali. And Joe Willock, whilst he can attack and he can score goals, he's not the presence and the threat of Joe Linton. He's not going to put his body about like Joe Linton does. So, yeah, I don't know what they're going to bring in midfield, but clearly the likes of Lewis Miley, he's not got it for me. He's a good player, he's okay, but at this level, you know, chasing Champions League places, I just don't think he's got it. And they let Longstaff go, didn't they, in the summer? So, yeah, we're going to quickly find out what Newcastle's bench is made of, because it's not going to be easy to replace Tonali and Joe Linton if they're out for several weeks. And then one other takeaway for me, and I hate singling out players, but Anthony Gordon, man, I just don't think he's got it at this level. He's got confidence, belief, he's got an engine to him, he puts himself about, but so do Championship players, you know, and I just don't think he is good enough for European teams, you know, so teams that are playing in the Champions League, the Europa League. I just don't think Gordon's all that good, man. And the reality is, he's shown that when it gets tough, you know, he lost his place to Barnes in this team, he's struggling to find his feet. He can't get his form back, and last night's showing was clear that he's playing with his heart more than his head. And I think it's risky for big teams to have players like that, especially when they're not scoring goals, they're not providing much else other than a work ethic. So yeah, Gordon, he's got something, but maybe he's better off playing for someone like Everton, where he came from, than playing for Newcastle week in, week out. In fact, in this game specifically, he missed several chances as the striker. Now, that's not his position naturally, but it got to him. I don't know if anyone said anything to him during the game, but clearly those missed chances got to him. And then when Liverpool scored down the other end, it might have played in his mind, and then he just started to play to the crowd then. And he was just running around like a headless chicken, chasing down lost causes, pressing, but on his own. It wasn't a good look, and you could just see it was inevitable. He was going to end up running into somebody, and that's what he did. He hit Van Dijk late, scraped the back of his calf, and it was a straight red. And no one can argue that. And I'm hearing people saying like that he was unlucky and things, but when you're running around like a headless chicken, in this day and age, you are going to get booked, and it's more than likely going to be a red card if you touch them in any shape or form on their ankle, leg, knee, whatever. He needs to know better. He's not a little kid, and if they can't coach it out of him, maybe he's not right for this level. And when the little kid Rio scored down the other end, it was because of that 11th man. Liverpool figured it out, and it would have been really important for Newcastle to have all their players on the pitch in that moment, and it cost them. So whilst there were lots of takeaways from last night's game, ultimately I think Newcastle are going to be okay this season. They might not have their star striker for much longer, but clearly Eddie Howe has got them playing a style of football. They are a problem for all Premier League sides, and they've got some good players. If they can just get fit and obviously avoid some of these injuries to the key players, I think they're going to be chasing European places again. I really do. And obviously if they can bring in a striker to replace Isak or get Isak playing again, they're going to be just fine. Whereas Liverpool, I think they've got issues at the back. And whilst some people are saying that they show it's a sign of champions winning that game last night, the way that they did in that fashion, scoring late, at the same time, they had 11 men versus 10. And they couldn't get the ball. They couldn't keep the ball. They had no momentum behind them. And they let Newcastle back into that game. That, for me, is not a sign of champions. And so it's just a matter of time before that luck runs out. And some of the better sides are going to get the better of Liverpool. And let's be honest, there's a lot of good teams in the Premier League at the minute. Whether it's mid-table like Fulham, Brighton, Nottingham Forest, they're going to cause this Liverpool side problems. And it's funny, isn't it, how Slot got all the credit last year for winning the league the way that they did, but now he's starting to form a first 11 that's more in the mould of himself and what he likes to play football like. They're starting to defend worse. Now, could this be down to something as simple as Wirtz? I mean, obviously he's a world-class talent, he's great on the ball, but that position, playing him sort of centre attacking midfield, you're almost losing one of your protectors in midfield, aren't you? So normally you'd have like McAllister, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, but having Wirtz further up, you're only going to be left with two holding midfielders, and maybe now they're not as protective of their back line. They're starting to show more of their frailties there. Obviously Konate is clearly one of them, and maybe they'll find a centre-back to replace him in the coming days, I don't know. But I just think this Liverpool side can be had. And we're going to find out at the weekend, aren't we, when Arsenal visit Anfield. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think are the biggest takeaways from last night's game. And I didn't even touch on little Rio, did I? What a little star he's going to be for Liverpool. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.